Donald Trump today vowed to impose a 200% tariff on John Deere's imports. We'll be talking about what that means. What would that look like if implemented if Trump wins?
John Deere just pulled the trigger on a move that rocked Washington, shutting down U.S. production lines and shifting them to Mexico. Then Trump stormed the stage and threatened a 200% tariff. Is this the start of a trade war or the end of American manufacturing as we know it?
Move some of its production to Mexico. The idea, though, is stirring, of course, some controversy, although some support it as well here. Others say, though, it will make things...
In June 2024, John Deere dropped a decision that sent ripples through the manufacturing world and hit the heartland like a thunderclap. After months of internal discussions, the company officially announced it would be relocating a major piece of its production to Mexico. This wasn't some distant idea or a long-term proposal, it was a concrete strategic move backed by real dollars. Deere confirmed it would be breaking ground on a brand new manufacturing facility in Mexico, a project worth $55 million and expected to be operational by 2026. The machines in question, mid-frame skid steer loaders and compact track loaders, equipment that plays a key role in the fast-growing segment of agriculture focused on small and mid-sized farms. What's really important to understand is that this wasn't a total shutdown of John Deere's operations in the US, but it was a significant shift. These specific lines are being pulled from American soil and replanted south of the border. That news alone triggered everything from market speculation to political fury. Deere said the move would affect less than 5% of North American production. Still, it didn't take much for critics to start calling this the beginning of a larger trend, even a betrayal. Many people didn't hear the fine print. All they heard was that more American manufacturing was headed out, and that's all it took to light the fuse. Behind closed doors, the decision had been in the works for a long time. Deere's leadership knew this wouldn't be popular, especially in politically sensitive areas like the Midwest, where the brand is seen not just as a company, but as part of the cultural fabric. Still, they went ahead. The new plan is set to produce machines designed for efficiency, affordability, and advanced performance, qualities that are becoming essential as farming itself goes high-tech. And the location wasn't chosen at random. Mexico offers more than cheap labor. It provides a logistics edge, access to Latin America's booming agricultural markets, and the ability to move fast in an industry that's evolving day by day.
A 200% tariff, is that plausible? How do you tax something that high?
You can do so.
It didn't take long. Just days after Deere made its announcement, Donald Trump took the stage at a rally in Iowa and made it crystal clear. He wasn't going to let this one slide. Standing before a fired-up crowd, he slammed Deere's decision and accused the company of turning its back on the very workers who built it. And then, in classic Donald Trump fashion, he went even further. John Deere just spit in the face of American workers, he declared. They want to build our machines somewhere else? Fine. But they will not bring them back here without paying dearly.
On everything that you want to sell into the United States, so that if I win, John Deere is going to be paying 200%. They haven't started it yet. Maybe they haven't even made the final decision.
This wasn't some throwaway line meant to stir a reaction. Trump was serious, and everyone knew it. He vowed to slap a 200% tariff on every single John Deere product manufactured outside the United States and imported back in. It was a direct threat. Loud, bold, and targeted. For the people in the crowd and across the country watching on television, the message hit hard. Trump wasn't just angry, he was drawing a line in the sand, and he was daring Deere to cross it. What made the moment even more explosive was the deeper symbolism behind it. Trump has always positioned himself as the champion of American workers, especially those in traditional industries like manufacturing and agriculture. To him, this wasn't just about tractors, it was about loyalty. And in his eyes, Deere had just committed an act of economic betrayal. The company that many farmers rely on, the one that proudly wore the badge of American craftsmanship, was packing up a piece of its operation and heading to Mexico. That hit a nerve. On the surface, John Deere's decision to shift part of its production to Mexico looked like a betrayal to many. But when you dig into the details, you start to see something different. This wasn't about turning away from America, it was about trying to stay alive in a world that's changing fast. Inside Deere's boardrooms, this wasn't a political decision, it was mathematical. The numbers didn't lie. Costs in the US had skyrocketed, labor shortages were hitting hard, and global competitors weren't just catching up, they were pulling ahead. Companies like Mahindra from India and Kubota from Japan had already figured out how to manufacture faster and cheaper. Their plants across Asia were pumping out machines at a fraction of the cost, and Deere knew it couldn't afford to fall behind. While US factories were struggling with delays, clogged supply chains, and unpredictable freight costs, global rivals were streamlining production. For Deere, every extra day and every added dollar meant falling further behind in the race. Mexico offered a way out. Not only were labor costs roughly 70% lower, but the workforce there was skilled and experienced in manufacturing. And the location was a major bonus. Being closer to booming agricultural markets in Latin America, especially Brazil, Colombia, and Argentina, meant Deere could cut delivery times, slash transportation costs, and stay competitive in regions where farming is exploding. The facility in Mexico wouldn't replace Deere's American operations. It would complement them. The company insisted that over 95% of its North American production would remain in the US, including its iconic large tractors and harvesters built in Iowa and Illinois.
And if you do that, you're going to have a 200% tariff put on the product that you make in Mexico, right across the border. They think they're going to make product cheaper in Mexico and then sell it in for the same price as they did before.
A 200% tariff sounds like a bold move, and that's exactly what it was meant to be. When Trump stood on stage and threatened John Deere with that massive import tax, the message wasn't subtle, it was meant to sting. But the real impact of such a move stretches way beyond Deere's boardroom. In economic terms, a 200% tariff on equipment made outside the US would jack up prices to levels most farmers simply can't afford. Imagine paying double or even triple for a tractor or loader that's essential to your daily operations. For small farms, it's the kind of blow that could break the budget entirely. That's where things start to get complicated. On one hand, Trump's move appeals to his base, especially in red states that feel betrayed by outsourcing. But those same states are filled with farmers who rely on affordable equipment. Many of them use Deere machinery every single day, and the idea that prices might skyrocket because of a political standoff is hard to swallow. And it's not just Deere that would be affected. Foreign competitors like Mahindra, Kubota, and Myanmar also manufacture abroad. If Trump's tariffs apply across the board, the entire agricultural equipment market could go into shock. That might sound like justice to some, but to others, it's just chaos. Even in Congress, the reaction has been split. Several of Trump's strongest allies, especially from agriculture-heavy states like Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas, have voiced support for punishing companies that send jobs overseas. But behind the scenes, there's growing unease. Lawmakers are beginning to realize that tariffs meant to protect workers could end up hurting the very people they're trying to help. Hearings have been scheduled, statements have been issued, and quiet meetings are taking place between lobbyists and policymakers. The House Agriculture Committee is now getting involved, and the White House is even floating the idea of restricting federal contracts for companies that manufacture outside the US. You'd think that when a major company like John Deere announces it's moving production out of the US, the stock market would panic. But that's not what happened. After a brief dip in Deere's stock price, the market settled. In fact, it didn't take long before analysts and investors started backing the move. The reaction was surprisingly calm, even optimistic. On Wall Street, where emotion takes a backseat to data, the consensus was clear. Deere's decision wasn't reckless, it was smart. So what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.